So our question is, how do we get the auto-generated table of contents? How do we get the auto-generated list of figures, list of tables, list of equations, if you have any of those for like channel geometries or volumes or Navier-Stokes equations, something like that. And the fourth kind of listed or indexed resource inside of a document is called a table of authorities, which is usually more for a legally focused document. Let's kind of go through how to do each of those. So first, we're going to need the actual content, and then we assign bits of text in the content to have more semantic markup, as it's called, or more meaning, and Word will automatically pick up on the markup saying, oh, you meant this to be a heading. Let me throw that in the table of contents with a page number on it. And if, as you're writing, copying, cutting, pasting, moving stuff around, that pagination changes and so forth, then you can have it update the table of contents or the list of figures or the list of tables or whatever auto-magically. And so you basically, the workflow is kind of 4 steps. First is to write the text. So placeholder, document, title, chapter 1 name, chapter 2 name, appendix 1 and title of appendix, and so forth, right? So the first of these 5 kinds of lists is the table of contents, which is a little bit separate and different from the other 4 tables, figures, equations, and authorities. Basically, you are relying on the styles, which in the Mac version of Word are on these little white chips on the home tab of your ribbon. Okay? But you can also get to those styles through the Format menu way up top. You go down to the Style menu item. Same action, different workflow. All right, so let's call this your thesis proposal title, and my awesome thesis proposal. So we select that whole line or any character within that line, and we assign that title. It styles it and makes it bigger and look kind of like a title. Way more importantly than the size or the font face is the fact that this now semantically has a meaning to Microsoft Word as the title of the document. Super important. Okay? And then same thing with chapter 1. So I'm going to replace chapter 1 name with introduction and background, let's say. And then chapter 2, we'll call that review of literature. All right, so I'm going to select just the chapter 1 line. I know it's kind of difficult to see, but just blue highlighting on black background, not ideal. I'm going to go back up to that styles preview list here. Click the little down arrow to get a larger list of them. And I'm going to call this chapter level heading a heading 1. So again, that applies a visual style to it, changes the font sometimes, in this case changes the color and the size and so forth, and also does stuff like applies half a line of height above this so that it's not immediately following on some like paragraph level text and so forth. Okay? So from there, we do the same thing with chapter 2. I'm going to do this one the other way. So I'm going to go to the Style menu. So I'm going to go to Format, find the Style menu item, and then I'm going to find heading 1 wherever that is. And these aren't always in alphabetical order, so you got to just find them in the list wherever they are. So we're going to call this one heading 1 because, again, we're treating this as a chapter title. And so it's necessarily larger. It's got more leading white space above it. and it's physically larger text and so forth. And then typically an appendix is going to have the same level of heading as a chapter title, so we'll call this heading 1 as well. Okay, or heading level 1 as well. Okay, within the introduction, let's say I've got some ipsum lorem text, which is just placeholder text, and we've got some parenthetical references in there, Jones 2023, and then a new sentence, and then another paragraph, and another paragraph, and so forth. And so within this I'm going to say I have heading 1 within chapter 1, and it's going to be intro to the intro. And so I go back up to that style menu, and this is within chapter 1, so I'm going to give it heading 2, because heading 1 is chapter titles. Okay, so makes that a little bit bigger and changes the color and so forth, but more importantly, this is now a level 2 heading style, even though the number, the sequential ordered number, is heading 1. So it gets a little bit confusing, but we'll get there. All right, so we got another paragraph of ipsum lorem text, and then a paragraph after that, and then another heading. We'll have this heading 2, outro of the intro. We'll call that another level 2 heading to follow sequentially after the intro to the intro, all within chapter 1 introduction. And ipsum lorem text in there. Let's say inside of heading 1 intro to the intro, we have some subheading. So let's add a nitpicky subheading that's less important, less interesting than heading 1, intro to the intro, and still definitely belongs in chapter 1 introduction. So this one will be a level 3 heading. And as I am adding successively deeply nested headings, it now shows me heading 4 for the first time in this preview list, whereas before, when we started out, it was only showing heading 1 and heading 2. So if you click on this preview list and you only see heading 1, heading 2, and you wanted to start with heading level 4, don't worry about it. Work top down. Start with book title, start with chapter title, and it'll show you more levels of headings as you need them. These go up to, I think, 10 levels of headings, but it would be a huge waste and just a bunch of visual clutter to have 10 levels of headings in this little preview pane here. So it's just going to show you top level ones until you start demanding more of them. All right, so if you don't see them, don't panic, they are still there. As always, you can go to the Format menu, the Style menu item, and type in heading, and it will give you the whole list of all of them that are there, not just the ones that are shown in the preview. You would click Apply after clicking on the heading that you want from there. Okay. Cool. All right, so nitpicky subheading. And in our left-hand navigation pane, we can see that it's already setting up a table of contents, but not a paginated one, so that you can click on any one of these and immediately jump to that spot in the document. As your document gets 20, 30, 40 pages long with all the tables and lists of citations and stuff like that, it's a million times easier to go exactly where you want instead of scrolling around like crazy. It's a big cognitive tax to scroll around a big document, especially once it starts to lag a little bit and stutter. Okay, cool. All right, so now we've got a set of basically a couple of chapters, a couple of sections within our first chapter here. Let's go ahead and throw in that table of contents. So I'm going to go to the Insert menu, and we'll go to Index and Tables. And what I don't want right now is an index, because an index is just a keyword list, and we haven't defined any keywords, so this isn't going to come up with anything. And an index is not typically, an index of keywords is not typically included in a thesis proposal. So it's a useful, interesting thing if you're a word nerd like I am and you love flipping to the index first and just reading through what cool words might be in an interesting document. Go hard on the index. Otherwise, everybody who's going to be reading this proposal probably knows most of the technical keywords, most of the jargon that you are going after. And if they don't already know, they should be able to figure out from context what that might be. Also, as a side note, my laptop has been just like force rebooting itself over and over. So if it just crashes, we're just going to continue on. We'll do it live. Okay? Cool. All right, so we went to, just to recap, we went to the Insert menu, went to Index and Tables, and now we need to change from the Index tab, in our case, to the Table of Contents tab. In your thesis proposal and in your eventual thesis, the Table of Contents is the first of these lists, these paginated lists that you insert. So it's like title page, front matter, like foreword, preface, acknowledgement, stuff like that. Then your Table of Contents. Then the Table of Figures, Table of Tables, Table of Equations, Table of Authorities. Okay, moving on. So the from template, or the default, is the closest. It's not perfect, but it's the closest to what the grad school wants, so we generally use that. So click from template out of that list. We're going to make sure that show page numbers is checked. That's kind of the whole point of a table of contents. We're going to right align page numbers, mostly as a stylistic thing that the grad school would like for you in the eventual final document, so you might as well do it now. And then use hyperlinks instead of page numbers. What that does is it lets us click in the table of contents and zoom to that section of the document in exactly the same way as the sidebar does. Mainly what happens is if you output this to a PDF to send that to your committee so that you know exactly what the formatting is going to be. Different versions of Word will paginate stuff a little bit differently. But PDFs are always exactly what's shown on the screen, regardless of computer, operating system, version, any of that stuff. It's all very tightly hard-coded. From template, make sure these 3 boxes are checked. You can muck around with the format of it in the Modify button or menu, and in the Options menu. The grad school wants the dots or periods or ellipses tab leader, so we'll use that. With none, it has none of those, but these tab leader lines help you draw your eye across the page over to the right justified page numbers. Minor detail, nobody cares. Moving on. Hit OK, and it automatically reads through those section and subsection and chapter headings that you set up as the entries in this table of contents. So you don't have to type these, you don't have to reorder them, you don't have to figure out what the page numbers are. All of that is done automatically. Now, if we, add that and then go through and expand this document so that it is quite a bit longer. So I'm just adding a bunch of paragraphs here. Heading 2, outro of the intro, is now on page 2 of 3 instead of everything being on page 1 of 1. So the table of contents is not continuously regenerated every time you update the document. You have to do that manually, because once this is your 100-page long thesis with its appendices full of data tables and stuff like that, and 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 pages of your writing, whatever the final page count is, it would be incredibly laggy to constantly rescan this document every time you type something, because Word doesn't know if the page numbers have changed until it goes through manually and checks. So the way that you make it manually check is scroll back up to that table of contents and right-click on it, or alt-click with 2 fingers if you're on a Macintosh or an Apple computer, and select Update Field. The key chord for that on Mac is Option Shift Command U. It's a 4-key stroke. So click that, and you can do update page numbers only if you need to preserve formatting, or if you just want to completely regenerate the table live, update the entire table. All right, and now we have correct page numbers, 1, 2, or 3 for each of those things based on those changes. So typically what you do is you insert this table of contents and the list of figures and the whatever else, and then just forget about them. And then right before you email this off to Williard and Schoonover and the rest of your committee and stuff like that, you update this one last time without making any other changes, okay? And it will do that for you. It will also, for example, if the table of contents is like starts at a quarter of a page long here, and then you hit update entire table of contents, and the table of contents becomes 2 pages long, it will make the table of contents 2 pages long, then check to see what the page numbers are so that the table of contents doesn't screw up the pagination displayed in the table of contents. Thank goodness. Okay, so I'm going to insert a page return or a page break to get the title page separate from our table of contents. Your document will have, let's make this normal size. You always start each of these lists on a fresh blank page. So invisibly I've got paragraph formatting marks turned on. It's that backwards capital P. That thing there shows the invisible page break. That's Command Enter, Control Enter, depending on your operating system, to insert that page break. Another way to insert them is by going to the Insert menu, go to the Break submenu, and choose Page Break. Cool. Onward. Now we've got our table of contents on a separate page. We want another separate page for our list of figures. Let's do that one first. So in my case, on an Apple computer, it's Command Return to insert a page break. What we don't want to do is just hit return a bunch of times to make a page break, because as the length of your table of contents changes, it's going to put the start of whatever's next halfway down the next page, or not quite onto another page, or whatever. So use a page break instead of lots of returns. All right. So let's see, list of figures. So I'm going to go to the same insert menu, insert, index and tables, table of figures. From the table of figures tab, I'm going to select the figure item. So this is charts, it's images, it's whatever block level element it is that is not a table. And again, we'll just do from template for the same kind of consistent formatting that the grad school wants. We want, for the grad school's purposes, in this case, we want the label and the number. So label and number is like figure 6, diagram of stream morphology measurement procedure, or something like that. So that's the caption, or the label, and the number. Figure X is the number. The label is the text title of that figure. All right. Now, this is a blank document without any figures. We don't have any. It's just going to show a blank list. So that's fine. We'll insert one as we go. It says no table of figures entries found, which makes sense because we sure haven't put any in. All right. Let's Command or Control Return or Enter to a page break. We'll do a list of tables. Usually a proposal has one or a couple of tables in it. If yours doesn't, that's fine. Insert menu, index and tables, table of figures tab, and then change the caption label from figure to table. And we haven't added any tables yet, so that is a blank list as well. But it at least shows us the field code, tells us that we've affirmatively done the thing, even if there's nothing to show there. So from here, I'm going to, so typically the list of tables is the last front matter, the last kind of metadata or non-content chunk of your thesis proposal before you get into the actual content. So chapter 1, whatever that is titled. So this page break after list of tables should go straight into chapter 1. Okay, now we've got all of these set. I'm just going to clean up the styles on these here so they don't show up in our list on the left-hand side there. Make those normal again. All right, cool. We are back to copaceticness. Okay, so let's we'll get into the list of figures. Let's go ahead and add just a placeholder figure. So let's say within chapter 1 and within that heading 1, intro to the intro, I've got space for a caption figure, excuse me, that should show up in that list. So we'll go ahead and insert a picture using a stock image of, I don't know, whatever, a rubber duck. No, we're going to use a cow. All right, so we're talking about ag runoff in this particular research project, and here we go. Looks good? Okay. This thing has eaten up the entire page, and we need for the figure and its caption to be on the page together. So that means we need to size this down a little bit as a very important move. So figure captions in APA style are always above the thing and on the same page with it. So I'll show you how to make sure that happens. I'm going to click not to the left of it, which will select the image, but on the page above it, and go to the Insert menu, Caption, set the caption type to figure, and then it auto numbers it for us, so we know we're on figure 1. Cool. Then hit OK to insert this as a field code, just like the table of contents is a field code. Okay. Now, it's on the wrong page. The cow is on the next page, and we need this caption to be on the same page as the thing that it is captioning. So we're going to go to that Style menu, and we'll see that by inserting this auto-numbered figure, I apologize, this text is a little bit small. Let me make this a little bit bigger for us. I know it's not great, but a little bit better. I'm going to go to the Styles preview, and it's already got the caption style applied for that whole line. So I've got the line highlighted, and I'm going to go to Modify. So I'm going to right-click or Alt-click on the caption style preview chip, select Modify, and I'm going to go to this drop-down on the bottom corner and change from Format to Paragraph. We're going to set this to always be with whatever comes next. So in the Line and Page Breaks tab of the Paragraph menu of the Styles Modifier menu, this is kind of buried in there, sorry. We're going to definitely check Keep with Next, which will move it onto, will force a no page break between this and whatever comes next, whether it's text or an image or whatever the next paragraph is, this will glue itself to it. And we're going to check Keep Lines Together. If you have a really long caption, the caption might try to have the first line on a previous page and the second line on the same page as the image. So we want to keep these lines together on the same page always. And also keep with next. And then Widow Orphan Control as well. So hit OK, hit OK, and this disappears from this page. This caption still exists, but it's the document has already moved it automatically to be with the cow. Now we've got a figure. If we scroll back up to our list of figures, and right click on that or alt click on that with 2 fingers. Update field. There we go. Now we have an auto numbered figure, so if we move this around, we cut and paste the caption and the image somewhere else, it'll renumber that, and it will renumber it here when you tell it to update in this list. So we got the page number, we got the figure number, and everything is hunky-dory. So we go back to where this was. Figure 1, we've got the image. These are on the same page together. Awesome, everything's great. Let's cite that image or that figure parenthetically. So I'm going to put the cursor on the inside of the period, hit space once, and go to Insert Cross-Reference to Numbered Item, change that to Figure. Okay, so the reference type here is figure, since we've been inserting a figure. And we're going to insert a reference to not the entire caption, just the label and number. Okay? And we'll insert it as a hyperlink, so when you click in the text in the PDF that you make out of this, it will scroll you to the correct figure. And this is the only one to select, so we'd click on this one out of the list and hit insert. And there we go. Now we have figure 1. This will also adjust its number auto-magically if things move around. But we're doing APA style parenthetical referencing, so we'll wrap that in parentheses and good to go. Okay. Let's insert a second figure above figure 1 and see how that changes everything else. So currently figure 1 in the parenthetical reference and in the table of contents refers to our cow. And everything is showing up where it should be. It's all correctly numbered and correctly paginated. Good to go. But life is never so simple as doing things perfectly in order the first time. So let's insert a new just paragraph of placeholder text. And let's say this also refers now to something, and then this paragraph above figure 1 also happens to cite some new figure that we're about to put in. So we'll have a blank parentheses that we'll put our new figure reference in, and let's insert not an image this time, let's do maybe a chart or something. Alright, so let's say you have a really cool chart out of a previous research study, and it's just the most awesome thing, and you've got to have it in your introduction. So we've inserted this chart here, and we've got this. Alright, so it's created a dummy set of 3 series and 4 categories and some dummy values inside of that. And here is our dummy chart. So we're looking at the same data in Excel and in graphical format here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so we can see this in its context. Alright, so with this chart and chart title, another figure, I'm going to go to that insert menu, insert caption, and this one is now figure 1 because it's above our cow. It's coming first, so it's renumbering the cow to 2 and initially labeling our chart now as the new figure 1. So this is a figure type, not a table or an equation. We are good. Hit OK. And this is a caption, so if we make sure that this has our updated caption style applied, it does. As we start to, let's say we just create more and more text that starts pushing this lower and lower on the page. As the chart wraps onto the next page, the caption should go with it. If it doesn't, something's gone wrong, and we're going to have to manually check this document because we're paranoid and we want everything to be perfect and beautiful for our advisors and so forth. So just copy paste a bunch of text here until this breaks across pages. All right, so I've pushed that chart off into the next page by just adding a bunch of text. What happened was the caption went with it, and the caption is still correctly numbered. Let's make sure that our new second caption is also now correctly numbered, having added a new figure. It does work. Okay, so when you get up, like if you've got 3 images total in your proposal, which is not uncommon, just manually number them. No big deal, right? It's 30 seconds to check through your whole document and renumber 3 things. When you've got 75 figures or 25 across your eventual thesis, huge pain in the ass. It could be like a ton of close-in, hardcore detail work to check these, and then to recheck them as you keep editing the document. So we want to remove that repetitive, mindless work from you. All right, now we've got our second and now number 1 figure inserted. Let's cite it. In APA style, each new figure or table always starts a fresh page. You never have it like hanging in the middle of text for publication purposes, but which is why I'm forcing it onto a new page for us. So we'll go back into the insert menu. We want now to insert the cross-reference to it. So parenthetical inline citation, as it's called. So we don't want to insert the caption. That's the actual title on the figure. We want to insert a cross-reference to that caption. So we click cross-reference, and we want to reference the figure, only the label and number. So figure, 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 figure. If you change this from figure to table or whatever, make sure to change the entire caption back to only label and number. In this case, we're citing the new figure 1, and it is done. Okay, so figure 1. Go ahead and update our list of figures, update field, update entire table. If we just do the page numbers, it won't even scan for this new thing. So I'm going to do both to show you update page numbers only. It doesn't even correct that figure 1 should now be figure 2. So when in doubt, update entire table. That will destroy any formatting you've applied to this list, but that's fine. Cool. Now figure 2 is the example cal, and figure 1 finally exists in our list of figures. Perfect. So far, so good. Okay. Good deal. So that is that. The workflow is the same for tables. You just change from figures in the insert menu and stuff like that, from figures to tables, and it's exactly the same process. We have also, in this process, added a couple of pages of content, so we need to go back to our table of contents, update that field as well, update entire table. Good. And now the page numbers are really pretty different, but we haven't added any new chapter or heading section titles to change the number of lines in the table of contents, even though the page numbers have changed quite a bit. Okay, so that's that. So far, so good? Does that answer your question on how to insert tables and do like the auto-generated style instead of manually, mindlessly doing it over and over? Cool. Is there any part of this you'd like to see again or in a different way?
For images, do you personally usually keep it in line with text format?
Oh, meaning, so like here, again, APA style is to have a bunch of text and then cite it, and then immediately on the next page, regardless of other text that comes after it, have that image or that chart or that whatever that block level element is start the next page. I don't know exactly why that is, but that's been a long running tradition. So it must have to do with like printing layout for manuscripts and stuff like that. Anything weird in this process has its roots in the manuscript publication process. But in practice, what this is going to look like is you have figure 1, insert the figure on the next page, and then on the original page, you keep writing more text. And so you might have like figure 1 on this page, and then figure 2 on this page as well, and then the next page would be the figure 1 object. The next page after that would be the figure 2 object, and then the text resumes before and after that to fill in all the space in between. Okay? Does that answer that question? Or? Kind of. Okay, so what this would end up looking like is...
So does figure 1 and figure 2 typically exist on separate pages?
Yes.
Okay.
For the most part. According to strict APA style. Now, your advisor, because you're not going to publish your proposal, might just say, man, don't worry about forcing everything across pages. Just like as soon as you parenthetically cite something, just throw the image right there. That reads a little bit easier for folks like me. Like, I don't want to have to store in my brain, okay, I just run across the citation for figure 1. I got to get through 3/4 of a whole page of text. Then I see figure 1, and you might have already started talking about figure 2, 3, and 4 on that same page. And then I have 4 pages of figures in a row with no text attached to them. It's easier for me, at least, to see figure 1 cited, see figure 1, then see some text, see figure 2 cited, see figure 2 right there. So the way that would look is like so. So we'll just get rid of some of this extra junk here. All right, now figure 1 is on the same page as where it is cited, and would look something like this. I'm just going to modify the caption style here briefly to add a little bit of white space in front. So we go to Format, Paragraphs, Indents and Spacing. Spacing before, I'm going to give it 1.5 lines of white space before each thing, and usually just double space for afterwards. Okay? So all figures will now have 1.5 lines above and 1 line of space in between the figure and the object. I personally like it single space, but APA likes a double space. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Cool. And then right here at the bottom of the page, we have our reference to figure 2, but we're at the bottom of the page. So it's okay if figure 2 starts the next page, because it's not going to fit right there. Okay? Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, especially with your thesis proposal, don't worry about getting fancy with like having 4 figures cited on a page and then 4 pages of figures. Like, cite 1, stick the figure in right there. Next paragraph of text cites the next figure, and so forth. It's really okay either way. But if your advisor has any specific, like if they're super anal retentive about this stuff, I don't think most of us in forestry are, but if they are, this is the kind of thing you just want to ask about real casually in a lab group meeting, or just poke your head in John or Carl's office and say, hey, do you want me to put figures immediately on the page after the reference, or do you always want me to like start the next fresh page with that image and fit any other text I can after that image on the following page? Like, how do you want me to do this stuff? And again, you can also look to your research groups, specifically your research group's previous theses and dissertations, and see how others did it. This is one of those things where it's a absolute, definite, supreme, clear waste of time to dream up some new fancy way of solving this problem. Nobody cares about this. This is just like tiny formatting stuff. Just be standard, The Japanese have a saying, the nail that sticks out is the one that gets hammered. You don't want to be the nail that sticks out on weird formatting decisions. Just go simple, plain vanilla, move on, right? We're not here to be creative typesetters. We're here to get some fieldwork done, you know? What other questions do you have? These are perfect for right now. This is right where you guys want to be asking questions. These are great. What else?
That's really just the main thing that I was
Okay.
trying to figure out.
Sounds good. Well, cool. I'll see if I can't upload this document as we've seen it today to our course website, and also post this video that I'm recording of the workflow and so forth. This is the kind of thing that you're going to do it so much over time that it's going to become kind of reflexive or muscle memory. But until you do that, it is a slog to find all this stuff kind of buried in menus and so forth. So again, this is the sort of thing that helps you be successful when you are chunking this down, when you're saying, all right, I'm going to write, I don't know what else the rest of today holds, but no matter what, I'm going to write this one next paragraph right now. I'm not going to do anything else until I get this one paragraph down. And maybe I'll get a head of steam and 2 pages flow out of that, or like I'm pulling teeth to get through this one paragraph. But when you chunk it down to 1 paragraph at a time, 1 day at a time, that kind of thing, instead of throwing this whole thing together the night before it's due, this stuff isn't so bad. Like, you'll acquire this muscle memory. It's okay in that regard. So break it into small chunks, and we will be good to go. Okay. What else? If that's it, we'll take a pause. We'll meet again. I'll send an email out. We'll meet again the last week of classes for presentations. But again, I'm certainly available to you guys. Probably the easiest and fastest way to get in touch with me, especially if you're ground to a halt on something and you need an answer right away, like, Park, where do I find that keep with next checkbox for caption titles? Like, my captions are on one page and their object is on the next page, and I can't fix this. Can you just remind me where that is? Just send me a text message. My number is 618-303-2799. Should be on our syllabus. Once I find some chalk. And I'll see emails sooner or later, but text message usually gets in front of me kind of right away. So that's for the recording, 618-303-2799. And I'll keep rooting around for some example theses and proposals and stuff like that. Post them on the course website so you guys can surrogate with those, and we'll get after it. Otherwise, we'll see you the first week of May, which is the week of classes right before exams. Our final week of classes will be our chance to present stuff. Okay? Cool beans. We're shooting for about a 15 to 20 minute presentation with a couple minutes for questions. And that'll get us there. All right. So we went the whole 50 minutes. We should stop.